All right, well, calls are growing for an investigation of the Obama administration's 2016 Russia briefings. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard unsealed documents this week. She says they show Obama directed the political manipulation of intelligence to hurt then-President-elect Donald Trump. Here's President Trump yesterday.
I don't think so.
Investigate the newly declassified documents by Gabbard.
Yeah, that's a terrible thing. I have great respect for Tulsi and the documents they found on President Obama. Frankly, it was an Obama thing, but it was the people that worked under him also working with him. And no, it's a very, very serious thing.
Attorney General Pam Bondi has formed a DOJ strike force to review that declassified intel. But some Republican senators say it's time for a special counsel.
I think that in light of these new revelations that an investigation would be appropriate. And somebody who's truly, or at least as far as they can be in this town, independent, would help restore public confidence.
Jackie Heinrich is in Scotland, where the president will be meeting with the UK Prime Minister. Hello, Jackie.
Hey, Sandra, despite those calls from those Republican senators, White House officials and DOJ officials say they are sticking with AG Pam Bondi's plan to create a so-called strike force to investigate these allegations that the DNI Tulsi Gabbard found, alleging that Obama administration officials manipulated intelligence about Russia's interference in the 2016 election. Bondi vowed to leave no stone unturned, but President Trump has alleged that Obama has been, quote, caught directly. Prosecution, though, is unlikely because of the Supreme Court ruling in Trump's own case, which granted broad immunity to presidents for official acts.
The immunity ruling. But it doesn't help the people around him at all. But it probably helped him a lot. He's done criminal acts. There's no question about it. But he has immunity, and it probably helped him a lot. Trade agreement. He owes me big. Obama owes me big.
The Wall Street Journal editorial board cautioning the president about zeroing in on the people around Obama, writing, by calling to go after people, Mr. Trump is demanding more partisan lawfare, identifying targets, and urging prosecutors to find crimes to charge them with. It's the same thing that was done to him. That lawfare backfired on Democrats, and our guess is that it would do the same on Republicans and Mr. Trump. Already, the Congressional Black Caucus is demanding DNI Gabbard resign for politicizing intelligence, the same charge she's leveling at Obama-era officials. The CBC writing in a statement, quote, if you are genuinely interested in the truth, we suggest that you speak to your fellow cabinet member, Secretary Marco Rubio, who led the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee investigation. Its 2020 report thoroughly debunked the very narrative you now promote, affirming that while Russia interfered in the 2016 election, it did not manipulate any votes. President Trump has been trying to redirect the focus to this Russiagate issue as he continues to get questions about the Epstein files, including today as he was departing the White House for Marine One to head here to Scotland. Sandra.
All right. Jackie Heinrich on a very breezy day there in Scotland. Thank you so much, Jackie. Yeah. Well, a new column with the title, Obama Knew the Russiagate Intelligence Was Manufactured. It argues, quote, it is utterly implausible that Obama did not know that potentially exculpatory evidence regarding Clinton's role in spreading the Russia collusion hoax was omitted. It is certainly worth asking him. Claudia Tenney, New York Congresswoman and member of the House Intelligence Committee, joins us now, and we can see that you are joining us live from Vegas. Welcome to you, Congresswoman. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, so...
Thank you so much. I'm here for a field hearing.
There you go. We appreciate the lights. So what do you want to see happen here, and what questions do you have?
Well, look, first of all, everybody needs to understand that President Obama knew that this was happening, that I respectfully disagree with the article you just showed that Jackie Heinrich just presented by the Wall Street Journal, calling this lawfare. Lawfare is when you take abusive process or even malicious prosecution, as is the case in Russiagate. What President Trump is trying to do is hold people accountable for actually, putting together and masterminding one of the biggest hoaxes in American history, much worse than Watergate. And that's exactly what President Obama and the people under him orchestrated against the president of the United States as he was incoming and disrupted his entire first tenure in office with this phony Russia collusion hoax and really just plaguing the president, costing him money, running him through the tape with all kinds of phony lawsuits and, special prosecutors. And what did they come up with? Nothing. But I serve on the Intelligence Committee, and that declassified document actually shows that, and corroborates everything that President Trump is saying and that Tulsi Gabbard has put out in her allegations against the Obama administration and his team.
Okay, so Congressman, the DOJ strike team is looking at how it's going to proceed with this new information. It's likely looking at past statements like these from Obama officials. Listen.
The Russians interfered in our election during the 2016 cycle. It's not a close call. That happened. That's about as unfake as you can possibly get.
Clearly, the Russians were trying to affect the election, to hurt Hillary Clinton, and then, of course, as things evolved, to support Trump.
It did not play any role whatsoever in the intelligence community assessment that was done, that was presented to then President Obama and then President-elect Trump.
Brennan is talking about the mostly unverified and discredited Steele dossier. And despite that testimony, a declassified intelligence report shows he did actually call for it to be included in the assessments. Jonathan Turley gave me his take on all of this yesterday. Listen.
It does appear that a couple of these figures may have committed perjury. I think the most vulnerable may be Brennan, who's like a 30-point buck now out in the open. These individuals, whether it's Comey or Brennan, are not protected from perjury charges if the statute of limitations has not run. They are more likely to be called again to repeat prior testimony.
So he's making the case he's most vulnerable. Do you agree with that? What more can you tell us on it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this screams perjury. I think James Comey also committed perjury because he's the one that knew exactly what was going on. He went to Trump Tower to talk to President Trump and knew all of this. He knew that this was not true. And now the statements are there to verify it. And look, I think these people need to be exposed for lying and continuing to go on and do this repeatedly as actually newscasters and to really, undermine the administration and outright lie about the administration. And there's sections of federal law that violate this. I remember when I was a freshman congresswoman in 2018, I actually teamed up with our now governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, and others, and did a criminal referral to the attorney general at the time, pointing out many of these things. And now we have the evidence, and now we have it. And I think on Jonathan Turley's point about the statute of limitations, I think there's continually cover-up of this that may actually bring the statute into play where it's now we have more time to actually pursue these. And I think President Trump is right. The American people want accountability. The lawfare that we see in New York under Letitia James, our corrupt attorney general, the malicious prosecution from her, these things need to be held accountable, and people want to see that.
Well, we'll keep following all that. Speaking of which, the Justice Department is suing New York City and Mayor Eric Adams over these sanctuary laws, Congresswoman. DOJ says they make it harder and more dangerous for ICE to do its job. The lawsuit is focusing on 2 illegal migrants accused of shooting an off-duty Border Patrol officer last weekend. It argues that if the city hadn't ignored an ICE detainer on one of them, that violence could have been avoided. President Trump with this.
We want to bring safety to our cities, but that's going to be a pretty routine filing with other cities too. As you know, we've started numerous lawsuits with other cities. We want to bring safety. We've got to get the criminals out, and we're doing it in record numbers.
Homeland Security says in 6 months under Trump, ICE has already issued detainers on illegal migrants at a 400% higher rate than in 4 years under former President Biden. Those other sanctuary suits the president mentioned targeted Los Angeles, New York State, Colorado, Illinois, the city of Rochester, New York, and several New Jersey cities. So they're going after these sanctuary policies in these states and cities. What do you think happens here, Congresswoman?
Yeah, look, I think it's really important that we do this. New York State is a bastion for illegal immigrants, even criminal gang members. Tom Homan actually resides in my district in upstate New York. Rochester is notorious for its crime and the terrible policies going on there. In New York City, by the way, only 4% of ICE detainers are returned by New York City. This is appropriate for the president to do this. It's a risk to take this kind of case because you've got to get past the preemption clause, but federal law is supreme. And this federal government and our country was based on national defense and security. And this is a security issue now that we're seeing police officers and specifically Customs and Border Protection agents being injured or killed in the line of duty. This is really important that the president pursue this. I think it's going to be an interesting case, but the president has been successful with the Supreme Court on many cases that the pundits and legal experts said he wouldn't win on, and he's won on. And this is a case that needs to be clarified. New York's green light law, their sanctuary policies are contrary to everything the 9/11 Commission came out with. Remember, New York City, the largest city in our country, is the site of the largest terrorist attack in our nation's history. Yeah. And the 9/11 Bipartisan Commission said that we need to actually have more cooperation with the police, not less. I think this is important to clarify this issue. The president is right on this.
Congresswoman, appreciate you joining us live there from Las Vegas. Thank you very much. All right.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.